And welcome home to the Crash the Pond podcast. It is a Tuesday, September 17th edition of the show. And Jake, it's starting to feel like we're back in the rhythm. Feels like we're back in the saddle a little bit.
It's beginning to feel a lot like hockey season.
I thought you were going to say Ducksmas.
Oh, that would have been better. I'm really missed. I'll take the L there.
The one thing I will say is that as hockey season approaches, it is now pitch black at 8 p.m. where I am. And that's starting to make these podcasts feel a little later than they actually are.
How many games do you think we get before daylight savings hit?
Well, we could probably know the exact answer to that.
I think it's like a week.
Yeah, it's going to be quick.
Yeah, gonna be rough.
Unfortunate, but what's not unfortunate is the fact that we actually have stuff to talk about today.
Agreed. There were games that were played between the last time we recorded. We also had Pat Verbeek went on the Spittin Chiclets podcast.
Yeah, Pat Verbeek basically, I don't know I'm sure there's like some sort of equivalent in like politics where it's like you go and talk to the biggest interviewer possible. And even if the interview isn't actually that enlightening, it's like a big deal. And that's what it feels like anytime someone goes on Spittin Chiclets in the hockey world. It's like, it's just such a huge platform that we almost have to listen and talk about it after, especially if it's when it's the general manager of the franchise.
Yep, and someone that doesn't speak to the media that often, to be honest.
So, I mean, you could definitely tell. Should we start with that or should we start with the Rookie Faceoff?
Let's start with that. Let's start with that because I think that's the Rookie Faceoff. In my opinion, it was fun. It was fun to watch games, but not that impactful long term.
Okay, well why don't we do this? Let's just knock out the Rookie Face-Off.
All right.
Let's just hit it out of the park, and then we can dive into the Verbeek interview because I feel like it's a little juicier.
Yep.
There were some juicy-ish comments.
There were certainly some. But you're right.
Some medium rare comments.
Let's jump into the rookie camp game. So the Ducks, they beat the Colorado Avalanche on Friday. They lost to the San Jose Sharks on Sunday, and then yesterday in the final game they lost to the LA Kings. Did I get that right?
I have no clue. Okay. I could not tell you the actual outcomes of these games. So, yeah, that was my approach to this, and I'm sticking by it. So the way I'm doing this, and you can certainly diverge from me, is I just wrote a list of players who stood out to me, figured I'd talk about those players and kind of call it a day because as we talked about on the last show, these rookie faceoffs, especially as the Ducks are kind of exiting this major stage of their rebuild, these rosters are going to get less interesting. Like this is probably going to be the most interesting we see for the next little while as guys graduate and as the Ducks don't pick as high in the draft. There was no Beckett Seneca this time. Yeah. Of course. So it's a very short sprint. It's 3 games and, unfamiliar teammates, unfamiliar environment. So this is like not something you're using to draw hard conclusions about players.
And to be quite honest, I'm going to let you drive this conversation because the games were not easy to watch. And they took a level of ability to watch in depth from awful camera angles through netting that I did not necessarily have the time for. So my thoughts are going to be more so at the higher level as compared to I know you were able to do some deep dives on it. So I'm going to let you drive this overall. But yeah, I kind of agree completely. I don't have any big overall takeaways from this tournament because, I mean, even if you look at the game yesterday against the Kings, you look at that lineup, there was no Cutter Gauthier in that lineup, no Sam Colangelo. Yes, I think Tristan Luneau was in the lineup. But there just wasn't a whole lot there that would have potentially had a chance of being on this team this year that is relevant to talk about overall.
Yeah, I think that it's just one of those things where what's really important about, I mean, we always talk about it like small samples are not that reliable.
Yep.
And when you're evaluating a prospect, you're trying to, keep up with their season. If you're doing it retroactively, you're watching games from throughout their season, getting a feel for kind of how they progressed. So a weekend, where it's like they have like brand new gear on and stuff, and they're in this random rink that's maybe some of them never played in. It's just not really a time to fully assess these guys. No 1 game or 3 game stretch really is. Now, some will say that the playoffs in junior hockey are that, but even that is longer than what we got this weekend.
Yep. So go for it. Go for it and start jumping into the players that you've got.
So, do we have a pronunciation guide somewhere? Because I feel like they released one, and now I'm not seeing it on their website.
I don't believe they did.
I could have sworn that they did.
I don't think so, but is this specifically for Buteyets?
Okay, that's how I wanted to say it, but I just wanted to be sure.
Let's go with that until proven wrong.
Buteyets. No, I think that's it. So, is it Vyacheslav? Is that his first name?
Sure. I am not. You are way in your head about this.
Well,
what do you think about the way he played?
I mean, I want to get people's names right. Is that being in my head?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, next time I'll just say your name wrong, and you let me know how that goes.
Fair point.
Okay, so Buteyets, Vyacheslav Buteyets, goalie, late round pick years ago, and a guy that, remember when he was drafted, we had that fun little moment where there was like no pictures of him, there was no video of him.
Yep.
And we were like, is this guy actually real? Is this a real person?
Yep.
And he's very real, and he played this weekend. I think he played 1.5 games because they subbed out the goalies yesterday midway through. And I will say that despite how crappy this camera angle was and how crappy this this entire stream really was, just top to bottom, you could still make out what the goalie was doing. Just watch the goalie. Like there's the angle is not stopping you from doing that. And so I just focused on Buteyets, and I will say, he moves really well. He looks like a pro goalie to me. And people were saying after the Sharks game, because he allowed a bunch of goals, that this is why he needs to be in the ECHL this upcoming season. And I just don't buy that at all. I mean, if you watch that game, all the goals basically that went in were just horrible defense, blown coverages by the Ducks prospects in that game. It wasn't really on Buteyets at all. I love the way that he plays, because if you think about the way John Gibson plays goalie, his default is, I'm going to come out and then I'm going to flow back into the net and adjust from that. Whereas Buteyets, he plays from the inside of the crease. So he's very conservative in his net. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Vasilevsky or Shesterkin, guys who are very conservative in their net, but they use their really elite athleticism and their great reads of the play to just make the saves look easier, and also to make harder saves easier because you're not overcommitted. On a lot of the plays, he wasn't really coming out of his net that much, and yet he was still making a lot of saves look easy, especially through traffic. So I don't know what's going to happen with this goalie. Who knows if he'll ever even make the NHL, but I think it's cool just to see the progression that he's made, and who knows, maybe the Ducks have another goalie in their pipeline that will one day give them some depth.
Yeah, and he's someone that, he's a bigger guy. So I think that being able to play in his net and push his way out from there instead of vice versa makes a lot of sense when someone is 6'5". And so you're able to fill up more of the net if you're playing a bit deeper. And a guy that comes to mind kind of with that way of playing is a Pekka Rinne, right? Where being able to use his length and use that and then go out from there. But he's a guy that I think there's something promising there. You look at his numbers from 22-23, he had a 933 in the VHL. Last year in the KHL, he only played one game, so I wouldn't really put anything into it, but 913 in the VHL. So I think it's going to be a very interesting thing to see him jump over to the NHL, or not to the NHL, to the AHL or the ECHL, and see how he does in North American Pro Hockey. And I think while there could be some bad games, like from potentially bad defense, maybe just getting adjustment, but I think there is potentially something there. And the Ducks have a lot of goaltending prospects. My brain is all over the place right now. But goaltending prospects when you factor in Buteyets, when you factor in that Calle Klang had a really good first game, and then there's obviously Lucas Dostal and Damian Clara also over in the SHL this season. So I think that only good things to come, I think, from the goaltending group that the Ducks have acquired through the draft.
Yeah, I didn't actually know he was 6'5", and that is interesting. And yeah, like it's just one of those things where you watch him play, and he's just so calm in there. He plays a really quiet game as a goalie, which is something that I'm a huge fan of. Goalies that there's not a lot of wasted movement, and they're just kind of always in the right spot. They kind of flow into their posts, always in control. Now, that's only going to get you so far, but I think that style, when you combine it with his size, is going to get you to be a pro goalie. The question is just how far can you really go? And
Yeah.
that's why he's made it this far. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if this season he maybe gets a shot in the AHL. Even if he starts in the ECHL, someone's going to get hurt or someone's going to get traded or what have you. And then he bumps up. And then once he's in the AHL, who knows what happens from there. I mean, I still wouldn't really anticipate anything from him NHL wise for a couple more years, 2-3 more years, but keep an eye out on him. If you get a Flow Hockey AHL TV subscription this season, maybe you'll get a chance to see Buteyets. Oh, they have the ECHL too. So
also,
there you go.
top tier pads. The pads that he had with the Mighty Ducks logo on it, like, quick question, sorry, sidetracking slightly here. Do we not call it the Mighty Ducks logo anymore?
Now it's just the Ducks logo.
Now it's
actually
just the Ducks logo.
This was never the Mighty Ducks logo. So it's not actually the Mighty Ducks logo.
Fair. Yes, agreed. But I think this style of logo has always been attributed as the Mighty Ducks logo, but no longer the case. It is just the Ducks logo. That's
It is now the
a little bit of getting used to, but I think the Ducks angle or the Ducks logo on the pads just looked really, really good.
Yeah, and he looked great. Another name that I want to talk about, because I think this one was kind of more front and center for people, was Tristan Luneau, because we haven't seen him play in a long time, and I thought he looked really good. I mean, just physically. Of course, we have no clue what to really make of it all. It's a rookie faceoff weekend, so it's not like he's playing the stiffest of competition, but he was moving really well. I mean, he looked explosive. He was attacking off of the offensive blue line. He was skating the puck out of the defensive zone on breakouts. He was kind of like doing little shimmy shakes in the neutral zone. He looked every bit the athlete that I think we saw last season. Of course, the question remains, how does it all translate to the NHL? But he also looked strong. I mean, he was bodying guys along the wall. So no clue what it's going to shake out to. But I was like, okay, Tristan Luneau, I see you.
And I think for him, and I agree, but I think for him that's huge because while I don't think you can have any big takeaways from him going into the season, things like that, just from this 3-game sample size from him. But I think the biggest takeaway from there is that he missed so much time last year and having the injury and then the infection and everything like that. And you wanted to see that there weren't any long-term impacts from that. And I think at least from what we saw in these 3 games, it didn't look like there was any long-term impacts apparent to the naked eye. So I think that's a great sign for him. And I think this probably was just really good for him from a mental standpoint, I would imagine, to just get games under his belt going into training camp, where it's one where if he plays extremely well, he could see himself in the starting lineup on opening night.
It's there for him. It is there for the taking. And I think to your point about him missing all that time, he kind of looked like just like a bat out of hell. Like he just looked excited to be out there, just the way he was playing. He was just skating circles around people. He was just like dancing around people. He just looked like, just all this energy that he was letting out from all these months of just, skating and doing drills and doing rehab and whatnot. So really exciting for him. Just good to see him out there. And I will say, we haven't really talked about it yet, but we talked about it on the Patreon. He made those white uniforms look good. I think that the combo of the slick skating plus the new look, the 67's kind of flashy. I was the number 67 he wears. I was a fan of the look.
It still is odd to me to see 67 on a defenseman though.
Especially a right-handed. He looks like Ricard Raquel from.
Yeah.
Like if you kind of like squint, it's like, oh, is that Raquel out there?
Like
wait a second.
Even in a new jersey and a new numbers, I mean like that. You see 67. I think for me, it's still synonymous with Ricard Raquel. And so gonna take some getting used to, but yes, the jerseys look fantastic. I think the orange pants actually look really good with this. The one thing that I noticed, I don't know if it was before the Patreon episode, but the socks are actually an ode to the Mighty Ducks socks, something I did not catch until last week, that they are an exact replica of the way they were on the Mighty Ducks jerseys, just recolored. And so the only one minor complaint that I have is I do think that the numbers on the back should be black. I have settled into that opinion as of right now, fully open to changing it once we see it in full game action with better camera angles, everything like that.
No netting.
But no netting. But I think as of right now, I think the orange letters on the front look nice. I think the orange numbers on the arms look nice. I think if the numbers on the back were just black, I think it would just be a little bit better. Very, very minor critique, but I think overall the look looks fantastic. It obviously is just such a massive upgrade on what they had previously had, and the crest, it's just so perfect.
Yeah, the white is a really good cohesive look. We have yet to see the orange on ice, so withholding judgment, but the white it was my favorite look when it was announced, and I mean, I haven't been pushed off of that take yet, so we'll see. Up next on my docket, Yegor Sidorov. I mean, he's another guy who I didn't watch any Sidorov until, I mean, that last season outside of highlights. So I was like, what is this player all about? And he is just so much fun. I mean, he's a powerful player. That's one thing I didn't realize, is that he's got some size. He pushes people around. He's also got some power in his change of direction, cutting, faking out defenders. He's got a little bit of an edge to him. He got into a bit of a scuffle after a whistle. I think it was against either the Sharks or the Kings. But you pair that with the skill and the vision. He made a play in the neutral zone on a breakout on the power play. I think it was against the Sharks, that actually left me a little speechless, where he was skating up, catches a puck behind him, and has the presence of mind to spin around onto his backhand and just get a perfect little backhand pass over to the wing to just kind of keep the chains moving. That's a very, very difficult play. Catching a pass behind you, spinning, get on your backhand, and just keep it going. And that's not going to make the highlight reels. That's not going to, do anything on the score sheet. But that's the kind of skill and just like awareness that he has in the ice. So I don't think he's going to make the team. I think I don't think that's realistic. But he's going to be a guy to watch this season.
I think if he can continue the way that he played in this tournament, I mean, some of the goals were some really flashy stick handling. I think, like you said, some plays where he's using his high skill level, right, to be able to pull the puck from different weird angles, to be able to have zone entries and things like that. I think if he can continue that in San Diego and work on kind of the other elements of his game to make scoring goals at the professional level more sustainable, I think he could become a really fun and unique player for this Ducks team, and one that, while I think a lot of people look at his goal scoring from junior and say, how could you not expect it to translate? I think it would still be unexpected just based on his draft profile, and just if you look at some of the people that talk about the way that he had scored in junior, I think him being able to make the adjustments to make that sustainable would be a really nice surprise for this Ducks organization from a depth standpoint.
I mean, if he just turns into like a decent kind of middle six winger, that's a huge win for this team, because that gives you another piece that you just were not planning on having.
Yeah.
So, huge fan of his games, at least from what we saw. I thought Sasha Pastujov looked improved. Now, it's still very early, and I'm curious to see him in camp and in the AHL, but his skating is the thing that we just always talk about, because the other parts of his game aren't as much in question. But there were times where he actually got around people using his feet, using a little explosion, and using change of directions behind the net. And I think he's added a little strength and just a little stability to his skating stride, because he's, in the past, it's been pretty clear that he gets pushed off the puck, and that happened a couple times here too. But I think he's added some strength, and so that's going to be something to watch this season. And he's another guy where, like, if one of this, like a Sidorov or a Pastujov hit, that's just another piece that the Ducks have that gives you that kind of second tier of attackers that outside of the guys that we always talk about.
Yep.
And then really after that, I thought Alex Blais looked good.
Okay.
He's a guy who's kind of years away, but he's someone to keep an eye on. And then Rodwin Dionisio, we talked about it on the Patreon show, but I don't think we've talked about it here. So he is going to be playing in the AHL this season.
Yes, he confirmed that to our good friend Derek at the Hockey News.
That was confirmed, and so I didn't really kind of watch him that closely over the weekend. I thought that he had some fun moments, but just thought I'd mention that he will be in the AHL. So with Sidorov, Pastujov, maybe Buteyets, maybe Luneau is going to be down there as well. Dionisio, like, the goals are actually going to be fun this year. I feel like we said that last year, but they're actually going to have fun players down there for
feels
once.
Like last year in some ways it was more so just Zellweger.
Well, it was a lot of youth, but the youth was not necessarily the most exciting, like Tyson Hines and Nathan Gaucher, for example.
Like, yeah, I think the only
Yeah.
higher end player that the Gulls had was Olin Zellweger. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
this year, I feel like, at least just from I guess maybe not higher end because these guys also aren't high draft picks, but I think they're more of the kind of exciting type of
It's just the way they play.
home run type swing players when you're talking about a Radwan Dionisio and you're talking about a Yegor Sidorov. And you're talking about these guys that can create those highlight reel type of moments that are going to make you want to watch.
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited to watch the Gulls this season more than I was last year, and we'll see. Like I said, if any one of these guys hits, that's a huge addition for the Ducks.
And just because I know people are going to want to know about this, what do you think of Cutter Gauthier's game?
I mean, he's not a guy I really tracked that closely, just because I feel like I've just watched a crap ton of Cutter Gauthier, and I kind of know what he is. I don't really need, like, there was nothing he could have done this season to change my mind about him, or good or bad. There were the Cutter Gauthier plays of, he gets the puck, probably should pass it and shoots it anyway, from bad angles. Like, he just loves to shoot no matter where he is on the ice. He also had some moments where I thought he made intelligent plays, cutting back off of entry and dumping it off to a trailer. But yeah, he's just not a guy who this weekend really mattered for at all.
No, and I mean, that's why he kind of only played in 2 games.
Yeah. And then same thing with like Sam Colangelo. I just, it's like we kind of know what these guys are. For a guy like Sidorov or even a Luneau, like there's just more intrigue. And a Buteyets, who I even know what he looked like before this weekend. So like those are the guys I kind of honed in on. But yeah, the guys like Colangelo, Gauthier, even, I don't know, a Mijatovic or a Hines, it's like we've seen them play to a degree, so wasn't worth spending a bunch of time on.
Yep.
Any other takes from this weekend?
Not really. I mean, Calle Klang looked good in the one game he played in against the Sharks. Or not against the Sharks, against the Avalanche. I'm getting these games all mixed up in my head.
Well, how about this? Here's a take for you. Never do this in El Segundo again. How about that?
Oh, never do it there.
It was a lose-lose because not only could fans not really go, but the stream was so bad that it didn't make up for the lack of in-person attendance.
Like, yeah, and we talked about this in our Discord. You and I texted about this. Like, realistically, this tournament, like, you don't remember it as a fan. Like, it's not necessarily fully made for fans. It's in some ways more so made for NHL GMs, for the front offices to be able to get a view of their players, see them in game action, because they're not going to see them up close really with all together that much as time goes on. So it's for that. But it is still a nice fan outreach program that allows fans to get excited, allows them to potentially come to a game for free, bring their kids to a game also in a way that's very easily accessible. And so I think doing it in a place like El Segundo, where there's just really not the ability to bring a lot of fans in. You're charging people a bunch of money and making it very exclusive to be able to go. And then the camera angles are what they are. It's just a horrible situation that you aren't capitalizing on it. Like there's no reason to not make it a better situation for fans to go, especially when you have Vegas has a much better situation. The Ducks obviously have a much better situation. The Sharks have a better situation to be able to host these games. I don't know what Seattle's situation is. I don't know. I don't think Utah really has anything. I don't think Colorado, but just make it a rotation between those 3 venues.
Yeah, right? I would say just remove, because it is definitely a rotation.
Yeah.
But I would say just remove El Segundo from the rotation because it's in Southern California anyway.
Exactly.
So just have it in Irvine, and then at least the big problem was the camera angle was one thing, but it was that giant netting that they have on the side.
Yeah.
Which doesn't exist at any other rink I've seen. It totally really killed the viewing experience. And like for me to watch, I had to there was a lot of pausing and replaying that I had to do. But yeah, it just sucked. I mean, it was really a crappy viewing experience, and I totally get people who were kind of turned off by it. When I first turned it on, I was like, oh my God, I might just not watch any of this. Like, this is so bad. But I got over it, wanted to give the people some content come tonight. But yeah, they just need to remove El Segundo from the rotation.
Yep. All right. Want to jump into Verbeek's comments? I know we said we were going to get through that quick, and it's been about 25 minutes, so all good.
Yeah, I mean, it was worth discussing.
100%.
Pat Verbeek. So let's talk about. I really want to hone in on the part where he talked about his career and his
Okay.
time with the Whalers? Because I know that's the part you care about the most.
You, that's definitely not the part that I heard talking about his career and just skipped.
Yeah. So for those who aren't picking up on the sarcasm here, Jake just doesn't care for that stuff, which is fine.
No, it's not that I don't care for it. It's that we've heard that before from Verbeek, and I think just at least when I was first listening to it this morning, I really just wanted to hear information about this team. I think we're at that point of the offseason where I just want the season to start. I want to hear stuff about the team, stuff about the players, where things are going, all that type of stuff. And so diving into Pat Verbeek's career and everything like that just was not something of interest to me when I was listening to it at first. On my commute home, I did revisit the interview to be able to make sure I had a second listen at it, to make sure when we talked about it today we were good to go. And so I did listen to parts of that and didn't finish it, but did get into where he was talking about like the logo and the Whalers logo being great and everything like that.
Yeah, I actually thought that like the part about his career wasn't that long. It was fine. I thought he had some interesting notes about like the way that the game has evolved. It was actually really funny because Bissonnette made like a glaring error saying that the 80s were clutch and grab and then the 90s really opened up. It's like, no, that's just completely wrong. The 80s was the time of like 200-point seasons, and then the 90s were clutch and grab. So he actually corrected him on that. Pat Verbeek did,
really?
which I thought was great. Yeah.
Well, and even the 90s was open in the first part of the decade,
Yeah.
and then it became clutch and grab. But yeah,
Like the first 4 or 5 years of the 90s were actually pretty open too, which people kind of forget.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Verbeek in interviews. He's not afraid to jump in and correct on various different things. Like, I remember he had the interview with Alexis Downey, I think the first Beaker episode, where she had mentioned about, like, the controversial goal to win the cup or something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, wasn't controversial. It was a goal or something like that. Like, not afraid to jump in.
So I don't know if you listened to the part where they asked him about that, but he actually said that they didn't know about it, the controversy, until they had come off the ice with the cup. They didn't even know about what was going on, which I think is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he talked about the Ducks team, and he didn't really say a whole lot, if we're being completely honest. There's a few things that stuck out to me, which I think the number one thing I want to start with, let's see, is his biggest thing, and this is something that we already knew, but he just will not stop about this, strength for prospects. Like, he literally said that is the most important thing for prospect development is getting stronger. And like, and you know, they were kind of joking around about, oh, all these kids want to do is toe drag and do drills on the ice.
You can't toe drag a dumbbell or something like
that.
That's something Bissonnette said.
And it's like, I completely agree with Pat Verbeek that in the sense that getting stronger for a lot of these guys is extremely important. Like, Beckett Seneca cannot go play in the NHL with the body he currently has. It's just not gonna hold up. But there's a lot more to the game than just getting stronger. Like, it is such a fast-paced game. There are so many variables that you're processing in real time. Improving your skating, improving your reads, improving your skills. I mean, that's hugely important. And so kind of like, I think that the real answer is that there isn't really one thing that's the most important in prospect development. It's everything. You need everything. You can't to be an NHL player, you can't just be a really good skater. You can't just be a really good puck handler. You can't just be jacked. Like, you have to be all the things. But I mean, it's more of a like, who knows? Of course, the Ducks have skills coaches. Each player has their own skills coaches. They have their strength and conditioning coaches. So it's like, they're getting the other stuff too, but it does kind of like bug me a little bit how much he harps on that, because I feel like it's a little bit of a old school view of the game, which I feel like we've kind of moved past.
Playing devil's advocate.
Actually, we've moved past quite a bit.
Yes, playing devil's advocate slightly here, because I don't really disagree with your statement, but I think in some ways he's thinking he's taking players that have the high level of IQ, high level of skill, which is something he's really focused on when discussing Leo Carlsson and why he wanted to take him. And so if you already have that, I think his focus is adding on the strength on top of that, because those guys already have that high level of IQ. And that's not to say that they shouldn't be working on it, because I think that they should. But I think he views that as the greatest weakness that they should be looking at, and that those other things are already there, and that's what he's drafting them for.
Yeah, I mean, how many guys are you drafting, though, with that level of hockey sense, like a Leo Carlsson? One?
True.
I mean, most prospects aren't thinking the game on that level. Actually, the grand majority of them are not thinking of the game on that level. So
it was just playing devil's advocate a little bit there.
Yeah, like, of course, Leo Carlsson is the biggest thing for him was getting stronger, because he's got elite everything else, well, except maybe skating. But, Beckett Seneca, maybe you can make that argument too, but that's the 1%. Most other guys need much more than just getting stronger.
And I think he did say strength and skating, or strength and speed, or something like that. But you're right.
Yeah, but I mean, like, speed is kind of just like that's a product of getting stronger, realistically, and of course increasing your cardio. But so that was just something that I think is of note and kind of explains, I wouldn't even say it really explains the draft picks, because they take guys who aren't there yet, and they're fully willing to take on guys who aren't as developed physically, because they have a confidence that they can develop them. Another thing that I thought was interesting was that he mentioned how he plans to be more involved with the day-to-day of the team this season. So he said that when he first started, he was kind of like just basically gathering information, staying in the background. And this season, he plans to be more involved with just kind of the progression of the young players and just interacting with the players in general. What did you make of that?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think there were a lot of people over the last little bit that thought moves on the roster were Verbeek moves or Verbeek decisions with lineup decisions. And I think this just goes to show that was clearly not the case, especially in the first season, where he just, I feel like, let Dallas Eakins kind of run the show and tried to get an understanding of what the team was. And then I feel like in some ways he's probably going to jump in this year more when it comes to maybe decisions about whether to ice players or not ice players, if they are continuing to take penalties. I mean, because we heard, what was it? Greg Cronin said Pat Verbeek came to him after the season and said he should probably look at taking away ice time more for guys that are taking too many penalties or things like that he should really be using that tool more. And so I wouldn't be shocked if Verbeek jumps in on those types of things a bit more.
Yeah, well, he almost made it sound like he's going to be one-on-one with players more. That was my take on it more so, was that he's going to be communicating with the players more so. Like,
Fair.
Maybe part of it too is coaching decisions, but it sounds like he's going to be more involved with like the development aspect, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, you're probably right there, because one of the things he did mention is that a lot of the guys on the team he took, and so he scouted them and he wants to be more hands-on and more involved with the players that he had taken with their development.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then another thing that I thought was, so you kind of brought up like, taking ice time away, and a guy that we thought about that a lot of was Mason McTavish. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he was asked about McTavish, and I thought there were two things that I thought were kind of interesting in his response there. One was he mentioned that McTavish is a really good passer, and he almost kind of made it sound like he's underrated or underappreciated in that sense. And I completely agree. I feel like Mason McTavish gets painted as this, kind of snarly two-way center who's going to score the greasy goal, but I think he's actually a really intelligent playmaker. I think that like some of the plays he's able to make, just, it's not going to be the Leo Carlsson or Trevor Zegras level of flash, but he's got some playmaking chops on his own as well.
I mean, there's also the point that he has that reputation because that's even what Pat Verbeek said about him.
Yeah.
He's like, I want him to be this grinding center that is hard to play against. And so he did say one thing that I don't necessarily agree with him on, and maybe this was just building him up. He said that he thought he made strides in his own zone last season.
Well, I thought he said that like that's where he wants him to take strides. That's how I heard that. But
when I re-listened to it on my drive home, he said he thought he made improvements in his own zone or something along those lines.
I mean, maybe he did as the season went along. I mean, I don't remember really market improvements, but
agreed. So,
but I mean, but I think he was right to point out that was an area where he needed to improve.
Yes,
like
there was,
and I think that gives me. I think honestly, I think that the way that Verbeek talked about McTavish actually gave me a little confidence, just because it seemed like his evaluation was pretty spot on in a lot of respects. Like talking about the playmaking, talking about the fact that the D zone was something that needed to improve or did improve. Those are things that like don't really get talked about at all with McTavish in the general kind of hockey
Yeah,
sphere.
it's more so just around the fact that he's a hard to play against two-way center. That's what people think he is, and not necessarily crediting that he's much better offensively. He's been poor defensively, but he's been actually really good offensively.
I think that Mason McTavish is closer to people's general stereotype of Trevor Zegras
Yes.
than they realize. Like he's just a
Yes.
young, developing center who's creative, who has offensive instincts, but just kind of needs to round out his game.
Yep. Yep.
Also,
100%.
conspicuously zero discussion about Trevor Zegras, which
Yeah, not really sure what to make of that necessarily. If that
I know
was
what to make of it.
If that was something that they were told not to ask about.
Bingo. It was just taken off the table. I would put money on it that's
Probably.
just
There was one passing comment that I was like, this maybe could be about Trevor, but it's definitely reading into it that more or less Verbeek had a comment about kind of the last couple of years, and he's like, and there have been players that changed my mind about them.
So that is something I actually wanted to touch on. The notion he brought up how he wants scouts to, keep watching these guys after they've been drafted, talking about prospects, and that a player can change your mind, or a player can change, they can just change their game, and you have to be ready to pounce on that. And to me, the person that came to my mind was Cutter Gauthier, because that's who they pounced on. They pounced on Cutter Gauthier, and then they flipped Jamie Drysdale, and you could argue that they also changed their mind on Jamie Drysdale as well.
I mean,
And so they pound. Then so he really talked about like pouncing on those opportunities, and I feel like that's exactly what they did with Cutter Gauthier.
that's fair. Yeah. I mean, the first time I heard it, that was the one that stuck out to me as potentially a Zegras comment, because I think you listen to the end of year comments that Verbeek had. It seemed like he was content with the work that Zegras put in on the defensive side of the puck. In granted, only 30 some odd games that he put, and so was Greg Cronin, which were the two people that supposedly were the hardest on him. And so I just think that it could be about him, could be about what you said also.
Yeah, because it was more talked about, like he almost made it sound like you have to be. It wasn't just about your own players. It's like you have to keep watching guys around the league, and that's what they did with Drysdale, and he even said like we gave up a really good player in Jamie Drysdale and a draft pick to go and get Cutter Gauthier.
And did you notice that he also mentioned in that he's like, and we felt comfortable doing that because of the amount of quality right-hand defensemen that we have in the pipeline.
Yep, which I thought was a really interesting comment, because I don't really agree with that.
Agreed, and that's why I'm bringing it up, is that he must be very high. So what came to mind is, first off, he must be very high on Tristan Luneau.
Yep. And then who? Noah Warren?
I wonder if if Ian Moore is going to be able to come to this team.
Yeah, I mean, if that would make it make more sense. But
Yes.
honestly, even if, let's say, you are just high on Luneau, and like my bet is that Martin Madden is really high on Tristan Luneau, because that seems like a Martin Madden pick.
QMJHL, yeah.
Yep, and that's a guy that I'm sure he scouted heavily. I'm sure that he's very high on him, and it's not hard to see why. Like we just talked about him for the rookie face-off, and we saw him last season. Like he's got tools. Someone made this comment. I forget who it was in our Discord, but he is kind of Drysdale-ish, where it's like he has these great tools, but I'm still like not sure what's the so what factor. You can skate, you can do all these things. Like, is it going to lead to offense? Is it going to actually move the needle for your team? And we just haven't seen it yet. With Drysdale, he had all those things. He was an even better skater. He is an even better skater than Tristan Luneau, but he just couldn't manufacture that into offense. And I think with Luneau, at least the brief inklings that we've seen so far this year, I think he's a little more inside driven than Jamie Drysdale is. Like he's more looking to attack the middle of the ice once he gets into the offensive zone. So if he can have maybe lesser tools, but more of an attacking mindset, I mean, that's a huge upgrade over Jamie Drysdale, respectfully.
Yeah. And he was very specific talking about right-hand Ds also,
Yeah.
when talking about the pipeline.
Yeah, I don't think saying we're really deep at right shot D means he's talking about lefties.
Yeah. Yep.
So, but then after that, like Ian Moore, maybe he's someone who they end up signing. And then Noah Warren, maybe, I mean, again, he's another potentially Martin Madden guy, so maybe they're really high on him as well. Who I should also point out, Noah Warren had some pretty good moments over the weekend as well.
Yeah,
So,
or maybe Tyson Hines is right-hand, right?
No, he's a lefty.
No, he's lefty. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah. Is Noah Warren? Is he playing in the AHL? I feel like we talked about this on Friday.
Yeah, he would be playing in the AHL this upcoming season.
Ooh, man, the Gulls.
Yeah.
Let's do it. The Gulls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else for you on this interview, though?
From the interview, talked about Cutter Gauthier a little bit, had mentioned the comments to ESPN before the national title game, and said him and Gauthier had a little bit of a conversation because he is someone that...
Not a fan.
Not a fan is the simplest way to put it, which, shame. I like that from Gauthier. I like having that type of confidence, and I mean, it's the same thing that Zegras did at the World Juniors when he had talked about when going into the gold medal game against Canada. So I personally like that. I think it's good for the game, but it is what it is.
Well, it's good for the game, but maybe not good for, like, your team.
Fair. Fair.
Like, it's good for fans, but, like, do you really want to deal with that as a team? But yeah, I do want to circle back, though. I just think that I'm pretty confident that they probably told the interviewers beforehand, like, we just don't want to talk about Zegras because we don't want to put any more, like, oil on this fire. Like, we just want to, like, leave it alone. And
yeah,
because they would have probably asked about the trade rumors.
I mean, it's
if
kind of a
no
no-win
on the table.
It's kind of a no-win situation for Verbeek, right?
Yeah,
where
because what if he says, like, Zegras is a Duck and, you know, we love Trevor, and then a trade happens the next month.
Well,
then he looks like a liar.
Not only that, but everyone would say, sure, that's what a GM would say, to not tip their hand.
There's just no winning that.
No. And so the only mention that Zegras had, and I don't know if you listened to their Ducks preview prior to Verbeek coming on, but it was just the frustrating discussion that continues to happen around Zegras.
Well, that's why I only listen to the interview and not the analysis.
I was just curious. And so it's just the fact of this is a make or break season for Zegras. And the fact that
in some sense it is.
Well, but
in some sense,
it's put up or shut up time for him. And then you hear other people talk about, like, Lucas Raymond and what he's done and that type of stuff. It's like, and I think they had talked about Lucas Raymond at some point in that show. Or maybe I'm misremembering it with a different show I was listening to.
It's 4 hours long, so...
Yeah, it may have been a different podcast I was listening to. And it's like, do people not realize that Zegras had 2 straight 60-plus point seasons? Like, it feels like there's almost this, like, retconning of what he was prior to last season and what he has done.
I think it's fair to say that, like, this is a big season for Trevor Zegras.
I don't disagree.
Like, I think that, like, put up or shut up is a little strong.
Yeah,
actually, it just is too strong.
Exactly.
But I think, though, that the sentiment is fair in that, like, he needs to put a season together where he's got the production and he's got kind of the overall game, which we just haven't fully seen as of yet. You know, we've seen glimpses of it, but, like, now we want to see it, like, just all come together. And if it doesn't happen, which it might not, that doesn't mean he's, like, this bad player who we're just, like, done with either. But I think that, you know, he's, what is he, 23 now? Trevor Zegras? Or is he younger than that?
I think he's 22 going to be 23, or maybe he is 23.
I feel like he's 23. Yeah, he is 23.
Yeah, he's 23. He's turning 24 then.
Yeah, he's turning 24 in March. So, like, this is a big season developmentally. The 23-24 kind of range is when you want to see a player start to really come into their own. And, I mean, he should. That's the trend with most players. Once they get to 23-24, like we saw it with Troy Terry, right? Like, Troy Terry kind of had a weird start to his career, then kind of gets into that mid-20s, and bang, he's off to the races, and now he's a first liner. Arguably was always that, but, you know, really showed it once he hit that age.
Yep. All right. Anything else from the interview?
Nope.
Anything as training camp begins? I think they're on ice on Thursday is the first day on ice. I think maybe tomorrow's media day. Don't quote me on that.
Not really. I mean, this training camp is going to be interesting. It'll be interesting to watch the kind of battles for those spots, like fourth line. There's just not really a lot of spots up for grabs.
I know the only thing that we need to talk about before getting into questions. Some clarity was given on Beckett Seneca.
Oh, yeah.
So the Ducks basically announced that more or less the time limit that they gave
was wrong.
was wrong, or he's improved. So what, they updated from being 4 to 6 to 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I think is what it was. And they're hoping that he will be able to play in some preseason games.
So that's cool, but he's not going to be on the team.
No, likely not.
No chance. No chance. So there's just not really a whole lot of battles that I'm looking for in camp. I'm really just looking to see if Tristan Luneau makes the team. That's kind of the thing I'm watching. Maybe someone will sprout up and surprise us, but Luneau is the one that I'm watching.
To Beadall's bringing up, so the insider was right. No, that doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like when the injury happened, the Ducks reported was still correct. It is just the assessment of how long it would take for him to heal was off.
Yeah.
That's at least our understanding of it.
I mean, the Ducks aren't afraid to take liberties with information. So who knows? Who knows? Like, isn't there another thing that now people are fighting over?
Is there?
I feel like there's another thing now. It's no longer the...
Maybe I'm just not online as much as I used to be, so I don't know.
Well, you guys were arguing about, like, was Zegras... Oh, this is different. Like, you guys were arguing about was Zegras ever offered, or whether it was reported that he wanted a long-term deal.
Oh, that wasn't arguing.
You're not online. You were arguing shit from a year ago, like yesterday.
No, that wasn't arguing. There was no argument there. That was just
you were rehashing a like stale. I
was simply asking a question. There was no arguing.
Okay, but you were rehashing an issue that's like beyond moot.
Was not attempting to rehash an issue. It was just a commuter thought that I was like, oh, I wonder if anyone remembers this.
Yeah. Well.
So there's that. But so all right, we want to move on to questions or anything else?
No, not really. I mean, I think that one thing that stuck out from the training camp was, or not the training camp, the Rookie Faceoff, was seeing the Kings new jerseys with the matte helmets.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen some pictures.
I did. I watched part of that game.
The stripe doesn't look as bad on the ice. The big apron stripe.
I'm not too shocked about that, actually. The more I think about it, I think with gear on, with everything like that, with moving, it probably was going to look better.
Yeah.
But the matte helmets are a good look. I actually kind of wish the Ducks were doing matte orange helmets.
Wow. Already turning on the new uniform.
I just like matte. I really like a matte look. I think it looks really, really good.
Okay.
So, all right. Questions?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to start with our Patreon exclusive questions. Go to patreon.com/crashspawn, where you can subscribe to us and support us there. At the $2 tier, you get access to our Patreon exclusive Discord, where we will get to your questions first as we start going through all of them. So the OG Leo Carlson Truther said, you have to give Zegras, McTavish, Carlson, and Terry all new jersey numbers. What are they? And retired numbers are in effect.
Oh, okay. So Trevor Zegras... I'm going with stereotypes.
Okay.
I'm going all stereotypes here.
Okay.
Trevor Zegras, flashy, skilled American player, number 88.
I like it.
Mason McTavish, stereotype is two-way, gritty Canadian center, number
44.
19.
I'd go 44.
What?
44.
Where did you get that from?
I feel like that's always like meant like the stereotypical like two-way center number.
What center wears 44?
Or not center, forward.
What forward wears 44?
I think of Rob Niedermeyer.
Oh, okay. Oh my. Okay, so maybe from the Ducks fan perspective, I get it.
Yes,
but it's not a common forward number. It's a defenseman number.
I think of it with forwards more, but sure, go on.
Your number takes, I'm realizing, are actually really bad.
They're mainly just based on the Ducks because those are the numbers that come to mind for me.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, Jake wears number 2 in beer league as a forward.
Yes, I do. I fully admit it's not a forward number. It's just my number. So
I'm just pointing out that your number takes might not be good.
Zegras 88 is a good one though. McTavish, I'm going 44 because why not? You said what, 19?
Yeah, 19. I mean, I don't feel strongly about that one though. I didn't really have a good. I actually liked 23 for him. Or actually, the other one I thought about for McTavish was 11. Give him Zegras' number.
26.
It's like 26. Man, you are just all over the place.
Wasn't Sammy Paulson 26?
Okay, well, yeah, he was. But if you're Now I have a better understanding of where your
Yeah.
number takes are coming from. It's
Yeah.
just like who wore it for the Ducks,
Yeah,
basically.
pretty much.
And then for Carlson, again, going with stereotypes, I'm giving him number 13, Matt Sundin, big Swedish center.
Wow.
Yeah.
What would I pick for?
He's not really a
Leo
91 guy. It looks good on him, but it's just not. I don't know if that's really him.
You know what? I'm just gonna have some fun with this. Leo Carlson's gonna wear 97.
97. Okay.
Will be the best 97 in the league. That was just meant to be a fun joke.
No, I can't get there.
Wow.
Now I'll go 13 for Carlson. I'll go 11 for McTavish, and then 88 for Zegras. So
What about Terry?
Terry. Oh, is Terry on this too?
Yes.
Oh, I did not consider him.
Terry, I would do 11.
You know what? For Troy Terry, we're just going back to 61.
No.
We're just going back. Cutter Gauthier can kick rocks. You're gonna have to get another number, buddy. And yeah, back to I didn't mind 61 on Terry. Didn't mind it at all.
I'm trying to think if there's anything for Carlson that I would like more than what I said. Actually, no. I'm rescinding my Mason McTavish. I think give McTavish 14.
I like 14 as well. That's a good
Okay.
one.
There
That's
we go.
a good one. We
Okay.
finally found
we
common
found
ground.
our common ground there. Hey Odiflo said, give us your grade for Pat Verbeek's tenure as Ducks GM heading into his third full season with the team, and discuss your grading rationale.
I need to reread that question.
Grade for Pat Verbeek.
What did I say? I think last time I was asked this, I said B minus.
I think I'm at B minus.
Yeah, it's like fine overall strategy, decent drafting, unclear on what the next steps are.
Yep.
Like, I think people give Pat Verbeek a lot of credit for the kind of tear down part of the rebuild. They give him a lot of credit for the draft, and like drafting is not easy. It is made easier when you're drafting that high. It's harder to screw up, and they have also seemingly plucked out players from the later rounds, so we give them credit for that. But at the end of the day, as a GM, the cookie crumbles on how you actually turn it around and get to that next step and actually get to winning games. And so far, the winning hasn't happened, but also like the path to getting there is unclear. Like, yes, the youngsters at some point are going to become true NHLers and they're going to lead the way, but like the guys that he has brought in to round out that roster, I mean, it's been a mixed bag. It's been a very mixed bag. And also the contracts that have been given out, some of them have not been great. Like for example, Radko Gudas, great contract, great player, like makes total sense. Even Frank Vetrano. But then like a Ryan Strome and an Alex Killorn, maybe okay players, but the contracts, the age doesn't quite work. So that's why, like for me, it's a B minus. Maybe you could talk me into a B for Pat Verbeek.
And then he also said, what points of improvement will you be particularly focused on regarding Cronin's coaching / leadership this season? Yeah.
I feel like they just never really adjusted last season. I honestly, I feel like they just never adjusted to what was going on.
I feel like he was just put in a tough spot because it feels like any time a guy came back, it was just a new injury happened.
Which is fair.
To a high-end player. And so there just wasn't the ability to adjust because the amount of high-quality players just weren't there because they were just constantly in and out of the lineup. So I don't know if this is an area of an improvement, but I'm very curious to see how he goes about building his lineup with a fully healthy roster. Knock on wood.
And also by adjustments, I mean like roster adjustments, which is something we were talking about a little bit earlier. It's like if a guy's not performing, at a certain point, you got to change things up, and you got to punish.
Also,
or take ice time away.
Please, Ross Johnston does not please don't end up in the lineup. Oh, here's actually an actual point of improvement that I'm focused on. It's not necessarily Cronin, it's more so Rich Clune, but I want to see how the power play works and what tweaks they make when it inevitably ends up in a cold streak. If they end up really working on the process around the power play and focusing on that and not getting too tied up in the results, because the whole thing that Newell Brown had was the meritocracy of the power play that was way too focused on the end result and not too much on the process of how they're going to get there with the power play. So that's actually a big tweak in how the usage ends up happening.
So on that note,
Yeah.
so I get it. You have an assistant coach that runs a special team. So whether it's your penalty kill or your power play, an assistant coach is kind of more dedicated to running that. But at the end of the day, the head coach is the head coach. You own everything that happens on your team,
True.
right? Except maybe the goalie, because the goalie's, whatever.
Goaltending's voodoo.
Goalies are goalies. That's a different sport, basically. But I feel like we're getting a little too comfortable just saying, well, the power play is entirely one assistant. It's all on the assistant. Like the power play is the assistant, and we did that a lot with Newell Brown, and maybe we were right, and maybe that's a failure for the Ducks to give him too much power. But I think that head coaches aren't dumb. They're not blind. If the power play ain't working, they're allowed to go talk to their assistant coach and change things up, change up the personnel, change up the strategy. And so, there's going to be a lot of focus on the power play this season, and there's going to be a lot of focus on Rich Clune. But at the end of the day, this is Greg Cronin's team. Greg Cronin is the one responsible for improving all facets of this team.
Great point.
So I'm just a little... It just feels like passing the buck a little bit, and that's the part that bugs me about it.
No, I think that's a very, very valid point. So there we go. Still on Greg Cronin then with that. All right. Olaf as Berserker said in the last Patreon bonus episode, and that's a plug for us, Felix talked about really liking Alexander Blaze's game while watching the Rookie Faceoff because even though he doesn't have a standout tool, he still finds ways to influence and impact the game. In your opinions, is this what it is meant when it's said that a guy has a high hockey IQ?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a fair take on that, is even if you don't have the right tools, or not the right tools, you don't have an elite tool like skating, shooting, whatever, you can still be in the right places, you can still make the right reads, you can still make a good pass. But I would argue that itself is a good tool. But if we're differentiating mental versus physical tools, that would be an example of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make the right play.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree that I think that is specifically what you mean by high hockey IQ. It's maybe not being the flashiest player, but just being able to make the right play at the right situation to create chances. So yeah. I think spot on there from Olaf. Hey, OG Flo said, in 20 seconds or less, what is Felix's season prediction for the Montreal Canadiens?
Are you ready for this?
I'm going to wait. Let me set a timer for 20 seconds.
Okay, go for it.
Timer and 20 seconds, and I'm going to tell you, all right, go.
Playoffs. Done. You can stop the timer.
Oh.
Playoffs.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Believe. Don't be cowardly.
Okay. I respect it. Brad said, a recent Athletic article ranked the rebuilding teams in order of who's most likely to win a cup. Fourth was the Sharks, third was the Ducks, second was the Sens, and first was the Blackhawks. Why do you agree or disagree?
Well, we all know who wrote this. I'm not gonna name drop, but I
actually haven't seen this article, so I'm trying to find it real quick.
An author who I tend to disagree with.
Oh,
who we've talked about on the show before.
Got it.
So I think we actually briefly discussed this maybe on a Patreon pod, but the Hawks being number one as most likely to win a cup, I can't necessarily disagree with it because it's they have Connor Bedard, who is, the queen on the chessboard. He is that piece that it's would you rather have Connor Bedard or another team's entire prospect pool? In most cases, you would rather just have Connor Bedard. So I get that. Afterwards, though, Ottawa Senators at number 2. I mean, I get it. They have a great prospect pool. They have great young players. Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk are great, but then there's this other wave after them, and then the defensemen are also great. So, and I think that we've all kind of come off the Sens a little bit just because of the fact that, it hasn't taken off for them, kind of like the Ducks. But I think that the reason they're number 2 in this ranking from this author is because this author is really high on Carter Yakimchuk, who they drafted at number 7 this year. And, that's not a widely held view. Could end up being right, but I personally would not have the Sens at number 2. For me, at that number 2 spot, it's really of this list between the Ducks and the Sharks.
Yep, I agree.
And I think that really, I can't really fight you whichever way you go on that. I think the Ducks have more depth. the Ducks maybe even arguably have the better top end talent. Maybe you believe Leo Carlsson is just better than Macklin Celebrini. But I think it's really close between those two. So like, I'm not going to really fight one or the other.
Agreed. Tussle asked, Noah Warren made it to the end of training camp last season. Does he secure a 9-game tryout? Also, is Drew Hellison still a viable right D option to track? So the 9-game tryout stuff, that doesn't really matter for Noah Warren anymore. He is 20 years old. He is not eligible for an entry-level slide. He is AHL eligible. So 9 games, throw that out the window completely. Does not matter. His ELC counts this season. And it wasn't last season he made it to the end of training camp. It was 2 years ago, I think. I think it was the year after he was drafted.
I think he was hurt last year in training camp.
I think it was 2 years ago, his first one, where he made it like towards the end, and then they sent him down. So
I mean, there is an opening on the right side, but there also kind of isn't.
Yeah, not like Luneau, if any of them, is more like viable to end up making the team than Noah Warren.
Here's the thing, though. Noah Warren has something that none of these other guys have, which is the size and the physicality. And we know that that's something that Pat Verbeek and Greg Cronin love. So if he has a great camp, it's not out of the question that he gets a shot. I personally wouldn't bet on it, but it's not like a crazy, crazy thought either that they give him a little bit of a shot. Like, I didn't think Tristan Luneau deserved a shot last year based on his training camp plan, and he made it anyway. So, like, I think, honestly, if Warren gets a little bit of a cameo in the NHL just to start, and Luneau goes straight to the AHL, and then they eventually flip-flop, so, Luneau comes up and Warren goes down, like, that's not a bad outcome. No. I think that's a fine situation as well.
Yeah. And, I have no recollection. I mean, B-Dolls in our chat is saying that he was one of the last people cut last sean. I don't remember that. I remember that being 2 seasons ago and being a talking point that he lasted that long after draft. But, yeah, it doesn't really matter. And then he also said, is Drew Hellison a viable right D option to track? I mean, sure.
So here's the thing. And I was reading Mitch Brown's his deep dive on the Ducks prospect pool, and he had a blurb about their top 30 prospects, which is a lot of prospects. And his take on Drew Hellison is basically exactly what I think watching him last season for the Gulls. It's like Drew Hellison is basically an NHL defenseman right now. He has the tools, he has the size, he has pretty much everything you need. It's just it doesn't always show up consistently in the AHL, and he's in a position where he has to, prove himself to get that opportunity. So, like, this is kind of a make or break season for Drew Hellison. People said that about Trevor Zegras, but I think it's actually true for Drew Hellison because I believe he's 24, if I'm not mistaken.
He's 23 going to be 24. He's the same exact draft as Trevor Zegras.
He's about to be 24, and it's like he has not gotten his opportunity yet. But when he came up, the last time that he did, he looked good. Mm-hmm. And if you watch him in the AHL, it's like, why couldn't he play? He's better than some of the defensemen who played for the Ducks last season. So I think it's just a matter of the Ducks giving him a chance, which we'll see if that happens.
Yep. Shake and Wings said, is the lack of Ducks media coverage annoying? There isn't much covering the team.
Yeah, I think it is annoying because we just don't have a really great flow of information. Like the people that report on this team, that follow the team, are doing the best they can, but there's just not very many of them. Most of them aren't full-time. This isn't like their full-time job. Even for professional writers like Eric Stevens, he has to cover other teams. And so it's just, and then the Ducks do everything they can to make that information flow as like muddy as possible. So there's just not a lot of accountability for the Ducks, and they're just under no pressure to make that any better. So yeah, I think that people kind of complain about the national coverage of this team. I think the local coverage is a way bigger problem for fans than the national coverage is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So that's it for questions from Discord. So we are going to jump into questions. So we're going to start with Twitter real quick, and then we are going to get into Twitch and YouTube. So if you're in our Twitch and YouTube chat, feel free to start throwing questions in. I see a couple of questions already in there, but Luis Alberto Johansson said, my question for tonight's pod is, do you think Cutter Gauthier will have a big impact in his first year with the Ducks? Maybe will be a point leader on the team. I don't see him being a point leader on this team. I think if he can get to around the 20 goal mark, I think that would be a huge win.
I think he can have a massive impact on this team, just because he's going to give them a trigger man in the top 6 at a level that they just haven't really had, and in a way that they haven't really had. Because as many goals as Troy Terry has scored, he's the kind of goal scorer where it's like everything needs to go right. He has to break down 2 defenders, shoot it through the goalie, or make an incredible play in tight. Cutter Gauthier just needs to get open, like just get him the puck. And that's just a dimension that they haven't had in a long time. And I feel like even if he himself doesn't have the most amazing season, it's going to open other people up.
Yep. And then Brian Estlin said, any takeaways from Mitch Brown's change the game guys in Sidorov and Dionisio, or maybe other guys that other players that surprised you? This is from the rookie camp.
We covered that one.
Yep, agreed. All right, so now we're going to jump into Twitch and YouTube. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast services, you can find us at twitch.tv/crashspawn, where you can support us in a way that is completely free to you. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch Prime gaming sub each and every month, and it does help out more than you can imagine. You can be just like our friend Lou, who resubscribed for a 72nd month. Thank you so much for that. But you get special emotes in the chat, special badges next to your name. So please, if you have Amazon Prime, that does help us. And then if you are listening to this and have a YouTube account, and yes, I know everyone listening to this has a YouTube account, go find us at youtube.com/crashthepond, where if you like us, you can subscribe to the channel, like the videos. It does help out and is completely free to you. And let's get a little like spike going. So hit that like button if you're watching this now and enjoying it. So had a question from JMO1996 in our Twitch chat. Said, when the Ducks come out with an alternate jersey, what color would you want it to be? And he said, I think black would be sweet. My opinion is make it eggplant and jade.
Yeah.
Like, just go eggplant and jade. No black jersey, have it all color, eggplant and jade. Keep it fun with that.
I mean, I wouldn't hate a black jersey, but yeah, eggplant and jade needs to be in the rotation.
Yeah. And then we got this question from Nick saying, will Jake wear a Wisconsin Badgers hat on the pod after the Badgers upset USC in a couple weeks? First answer is I will not be buying a Wisconsin Badger hat. So there's a no for that. And second answer is USC is not going to be upset by Wisconsin. It's just not going to happen. So there's that. And now I'm probably going to have to eat my words if they end up losing. And Nick, rightfully so, will mention it in a chat after that game. But we shall see. Claydu1212 said, how many goals does Ross Johnston score this year?
How many did he score last year?
I don't know. The floor is yours.
I mean, you're the numbers guy.
This is a question. We're both numbers guys.
You're the engineer, though.
That's fair.
So
let's see. How many goals did he score? My bet is he scored like 3 goals last season.
He scored 1.
He's got.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 2. I'm gonna go with 2.
I'll give him 3.
Damn, he's gonna triple his production.
He's gonna triple his production.
What would you guess his career high is in goals in a season?
Well, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh,
it's 3. He had 3 in a 32 game season.
Dang.
He has 10 career NHL goals.
I mean, hey, that's 10 more than I do, but
fair point.
Yeah, but 1 is pretty funny. Not gonna lie, 1 is pretty funny.
He also had 1 taken away in that game against Pittsburgh. I remember.
So really, he scored 2 this season.
Yeah, he had 2 pucks go in the net.
Yeah.
RoochFan20 said, question, which Ducks prospect established himself as a roster mainstay by the end of the season?
Ducks prospect. Do we consider Cutter Gauthier a prospect?
Sure.
He's the easy answer, so I'll take the low-hanging fruit.
Okay. I'll go with Colangelo.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like his spot is not guaranteed.
No. So that's why it's more so establishes. I feel like Gauthier's is guaranteed, which makes it definitely a cop-out.
Yeah, I ducked it. It's fine.
Fair. I've done it before. Alex Olvera said, question, IDK if this has been discussed, but I keep seeing people say this is a put up or shut up season for Zegras, and has he not put up? I'd like to see him improve, but he's already shown he's a good/great player, IMO.
I love how you're saying IDK and IMO out loud.
Yeah, you know.
But you're not the online one though. Just reiterating that.
I said just recently I have been as online.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fair
That
enough.
was, I think, what I said.
What was the question?
He keeps seeing people.
Oh yeah,
say
he's
this is a
right.
put up or, yeah,
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
are dumb. People don't
Yeah.
pay. People don't pay attention to the Ducks.
recency bias.
They just read what Frank Seravalli says and they go from there. That's
Yeah.
where they take their marching orders from.
Yeah. Anaheim said, question, why do you think the Ducks seem so bullish on Mijatovic?
Do they? I mean, he's just one of their prospects. I don't know. He's just another guy for me. Like, he could be a fine third to fourth line checker, but I really don't see much playmaking there at all. Like, he has the skating and whatnot, but I don't know. Consider me a Mayato skeptic right now.
Wow. Went there. All right. So that's it for questions in Twitch and YouTube. We have some shit show questions, but Rooch added in our podcast questions that said basically not a question, but we should uplift Derek and Patrick to the Ducks media atmosphere. So go check them out, everyone. They are definitely trying to help out with the local coverage of the team.
Yeah, I mean they're full time on the beat.
They are Yep, exactly.
I mean they're not on the road, but they're at every game, home, and at every practice. So,
and I believe go check out Derek's Twitter feed. I think he's trying to be able to crowdsource some ways to get to some road trips. So if you want to help him out, go check that out.
yeah, and also if you are a Ducks fan and you follow them and you want more like journalism,
Good point.
click on all their articles because the Hockey News is ad revenue based, and those guys their bosses need to see clicks for the content to keep coming out. So click.
Yep.
Click away. Even if you don't read, click twice.
It's the same thing I think with all of our content, this included and theirs, is that if you like what you're seeing, if you want more of it, by not engaging with it, by not looking at it, by doing that type of stuff, you're not going to get more of that. And B Dolls brings up a good point. Disable ad block on Hockey News. I know it's frustrating to see all these ads.
Reader mode.
But that is how you end up helping them out more. So
yeah,
do that.
I mean, and they've acknowledged this too, but the interface is just, I mean, because of all the ads, it's just very hard to read. But if you click reader mode on your browser on your phone or in your web browser on your computer, it just looks like text, and then you can get through it without seeing all the ads. So, and I don't think that affects the ad revenue situation. So,
yeah. All right. So shit show questions time. Hey, Yo, Deflo said belated thoughts on the. Oh,
I just want to respond to the Anaheim question.
Go for it.
So it was bullish to use the 33rd pick on Mijatovic when he was, I don't know what he was projected as. I don't remember, but I agree with you. Like, they're bullish in where they picked him. I thought that was more meant on I thought the question was more about something that was said or what they've done. But yeah, clearly they believe in him. I mean, he's a borderline first round pick. I can't quite tell you why outside of his physical tools, but yeah, that's my take.
All right. Shit show questions time. Hey, Odiflo said belated thoughts on Hangman Swerve match at AEW All Out. It was brutal. It was epic. It was not for the faint of hearts, and it's everything that match needed to be with the blood feud that those two men were engaged in. And one man, like, from a story perspective, creeped in and shot a video of the other one man's son sleeping, like a baby kid sleeping. And the other man was tormented by all that and burned down the other guy's childhood home.
What are you talking about?
That is the story. So deserved this type of match. It was great storytelling, everything like that. And so yeah, belated thoughts, fantastic. Lewis X209 says thoughts on fast food apps.
Don't use them. I don't go to any fast food chains that have an app, so I can't really comment.
I'll use Jersey Mike's app.
Okay. Is
You
that
get
fast
points.
food though? By your definition, no.
By my definition, no, it's fast casual. But
Yeah.
I do use their app. I do use the Chipotle app. I do use, let me see, drive-through apps. I don't really use that much, but
I use the app for Starbucks, but I feel like that's just if you don't use the app for Starbucks, I'm kind of wondering what you're.
do you use the app for Starbucks to order if you're going through the drive-through?
I never go to Starbucks drive-through. I don't have one
Okay.
around me,
Okay.
so
Let me ask follow up. Would you use
yeah,
the
hell
Starbucks
yeah.
app?
I
if
want
you
the
were going-
points.
No. As in, would you order on the app? I guess is my question. You still get the
Oh.
points if you pay on the app.
Oh, wait? You're saying you can order ahead on? Wait, you can order ahead on the app and then pick up in the drive-through?
Yes,
Oh, interesting. I feel like
I
it'd just be
think-
faster to go in.
100%.
Yeah, I mean that seems just like illogical.
But most of the time when I end up driving through, what I do is I order and then just scan my thing because then I
Yeah.
get the points from it.
I mean, if I'm going to Starbucks, I'm using the app, but I just don't have any drive-through ones around me. But if there were one though, and I wanted to use like that, the scenario you described, it seems like it'd be faster to just go in and pick and like order ahead and just go.
I guess
grab
it just
and leave.
depends on how long the Starbucks line is.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a short line, I'll.
Because
Yeah.
I guess Beatles is saying on the app you can pick whether or not you pick up in person or in the car. But overall, no issues with the apps. I just typically don't use them because fast.
You
food,
want
I'm
In and
just
Out to
going
have an
do-
app, which is interesting.
I think it would be a great choice if you could be faster.
Would it be faster though?
If I said if.
How would it make it faster though?
If you could place it ahead of time and then just go in and pick it up, it would be faster than waiting in the drive-through line.
Yeah, but you know how many more orders there would be though?
They would have to restructure their counters.
It would
for
open
sure.
and it would open up an entire new Pandora's box of orders.
That's fair.
So
But it could lessen the drive-through lines.
Yeah. Well, if
Could.
you're in the In and Out drive-through, you've already messed up. So
Oh, I do the drive-through all the time.
I do it anyway. I just put on a podcast and just chill
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I honestly like, unless it's like egregiously long, I'm sitting. I don't care. I'm a sucker.
What do you think
Whatever.
of the Lou's take that you should not be on your phone in the In and Out drive-through line?
I mean, he's correct. You shouldn't use a mobile device while you're operating a motor vehicle. So good on Lou for being lawful.
There you go. Connor said, "Why is this man an MVP front runner skull?" And it's a picture of Sam Darnold in his New York Jets jersey.
Ugh.
The Darnold Renaissance is on.
Yeah, the touchdown he threw, the 97-yarder to Justin Jefferson, both hurt my soul, cheering for the team on the other side, but also was amazing. It was pretty.
The Sam Darnold Renaissance is on.
Seeing that live was just insane. Like, it's pretty rare to see something like that happen in the moment. So, good for Sam Darnold.
Love it for Sam Darnold. South OC product, Sam Darnold from San Clemente.
I thought you were about to say like Costa Mesa or something.
No.
Like,
No,
don't do this.
don't start this.
Yeah, it's too late for that.
All right. I think that's going to do it. We got no more questions.
Okay, well now you have to blind rank fruit.
Oh, no. Okay, go.
I'm putting you on the
Go.
spot.
Go.
Apple. Okay, and
Four.
just for those who
Four.
don't know what a blind ranking is, just getting this out there. There's a 1 through 5. Jake has to rank the thing without knowing what comes next.
4 for an
Apple's
apple.
at 4?
Apple's at 4.
Oh, that hurts.
Will I regret it?
Guava.
So, I'm going to just make this statement. I don't think I've ever eaten a guava by itself, but guava juice or guava nectar is some of the most glorious stuff there is. So, I'm going to put it at 2.
Wow, okay.
Based upon
Watermelon. Ooh,
that. Ooh.
that is a tough one. And you've really screwed yourself with the setup.
Have I? I'm going 3 for watermelon. I don't think I've screwed myself.
See, that's a 1 candidate for me.
It's potential.
The
but-
issue with watermelon is it can be inconsistent.
Correct. It can be too mushy. Hence the 3.
Strawberry. Oh, man.
1.
Are you sure about this?
Yes.
Final answer? Okay.
Final answer 1.
And your number 5 is blueberry. Okay.
I'm good with that. The only thing I would have been mad about is if banana was 5.
No, I think your ranking's pretty good. I would just flip guava and apple.
No.
Apples are great.
Thing is, I eat apples more, but guava's better.
I kind of want to give you one more.
Are you shocked that Lou doesn't know what guava is?
Of course not.
Okay.
How familiar are you with chocolate bars?
I feel like I'm pretty chocolate. Or
You're okay. Well, I'm gonna move on from that. Would you rather do? I'll give you three options:
I'll take chocolate bars.
chocolate bars, dangerous animals, or vacation destinations.
Let's do chocolate bars.
Okay. Lion bar.
Okay, I don't know these.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Is there's
Let's
gonna be
do vacation destination.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Vacation destinations. Okay. Norway.
4.
Where are you? 4. Wow. Not a fjord fan?
I
Japan.
like the beach. Ooh, I'm gonna go 1. As I just said,
1?
the beach, but Japan, like I want to go to Japan.
I have been. France. Oh,
France,
a lot of beaches in France.
I'll go 5.
What? Oh,
I want to go.
God.
I'm leaving it open.
France behind Norway is a choice. Okay. Morocco.
Ooh, Morocco's 2.
Oh, man. Okay. And Vietnam is your 3.
Okay.
So
I probably should have swapped Vietnam and France.
Yeah, Morocco at 2 is a little.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Have you seen? There are some beach resorts in Morocco that are insane.
Yeah, Morocco's not the most friendly for certain types of people.
Yeah, fair.
So
Fair.
I don't know how I feel about all that. Anyway, so on that note, good job, good rankings.
Thank you. Thank
I mean, not really, but good job ranking.
My fruit ranking was good.
Your fruit ranking was solid. I'll give
Okay.
you that.
Okay.
We kind of lost the plot a little bit at the end there.
Yeah.
But thank you for listening, everyone. If you want to support this podcast and help keep things going, there's a few great ways to do so, which will get you even more content. Number 1 is go check out our Patreon page. For a $2 monthly pledge, you get access to our Discord server. This is a great way to just first and foremost support the show. It's a very low commitment. You also get to interact with us on a really day-to-day basis, react to different news, react to whatever's going on with the Ducks, ask us questions directly if you have something that's just burning in your brain. You also get to connect with other diehard Ducks fans. You get to talk other sports. There's plenty of channels in there, so a lot of fun. You can up that pledge, though, to $7.50 a month. So in addition to the Discord, you also get access to 2 bonus Patreon episodes a month, 2 bonus podcasts, and then also bonus player breakdown videos. So, prospect videos, things of that nature. A lot of fun and really just a great way to support us and to help us keep this thing going. And then you can also leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also do so on Spotify. Totally free, only takes a second, but does help out quite a bit. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, get the video version of the pod, additional player videos there. You can also find our website, crashthepond.com. Find us on social media. We are on Facebook. I feel like we just never talk about that, but we are on Facebook. There is a Crash the Pond Facebook page.
There is.
And we are also on Twitter. Follow us there. And on that note, thank you for listening, everyone. This has been a good time. We'll talk to you soon. We'll do it again.
Bye.